Blood is a connective tissue that flows through two major circuits: systemic circulation from the left side of the heart out to the body and back to the right atrium and ventricle, and the pulmonary circulation from the right side of the heart to the lungs and then back to the left atrium and ventricle. The former is under fairly high pressure, while the latter must take a gentler approach so as not to blow out the capillaries in the lungs while the blood dumps carbon dioxide and picks up oxygen from the atmosphere. How does the pulmonary system accomplish this feat of gas exchange? To this point, we have explored how the flow of both electricity and blood are subject to Ohm's law, the principle that flow, current, is dependent on the pressure to flow, also known as electrical potential, or even potential energy if you've made that connection, divided by the resistance to flow. Given the importance of Ohm's law so far, it should not surprise you that it also applies to gases exchanged with the environment during ventilated respiration. As noted in the neuron, the magnitude of the membrane potential is a direct consequence of the size of the charge differential between the inside of the cell and its outside. Similarly, the direction and force of gases into and out of the lungs is a direct consequence of the difference in the amount of each gas in the bloodstream from the outside atmosphere. This difference is called partial pressure, and as you'd expect, it directly influences flow of gas into or out of the bloodstream, and is indirectly proportional to the airway or blood flow resistance. For example, a person who is choking cannot exchange gas with the outside atmosphere regardless of the pressure differential. The hot dog lodged in their throat is a perfect resistor. Likewise, when an ocean diver comes up for air too quickly after a particularly deep dive, the oxygen gas in their blood responds to the pressure change by bubbling out of solution, blood, and blocking major blood vessels. The resultant syndrome is called the bends and can only be treated by placing the diver back in a pressurized chamber and only slowly bringing them back to normal atmospheric pressure. Taken to the extreme, if an astronaut went out into the vacuum of space without their pressurized suit, they would not only freeze to death very quickly, but first their blood would boil because of the massive gas pressure difference between that in the bloodstream and the zero pressure environment of outer space. In a normal environment, here on Earth, partial pressure allows gases to flow down their concentration gradients naturally. For example, at sea level, atmospheric pressure is about 760 millimeters of mercury, or 1 atmosphere. Because it is composed of about 21% oxygen, O2, this critical gas accounts for about 160 millimeters of mercury, while nitrogen gas, N2, accounts for a whopping 79%, or 600 millimeters of mercury. Because the partial pressure of oxygen in the blood drops to as low as 40 millimeters of mercury by the time it returns to the pulmonary circuit, atmospheric oxygen readily diffuses down its concentration gradient and is absorbed into the bloodstream to a saturation point of about 100 millimeters of mercury as it returns to the heart. Likewise, the concentration of carbon dioxide gas, a waste product from cellular respiration, is more than 200 times the partial pressure of CO2 in the atmosphere. Paradoxically, the transfer of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere is not as efficient as oxygen, dropping from 46 millimeters of mercury to 40. In systemic circulation, the gas exchange occurs again, but this time with the cells and tissues of the body. The blood drops off oxygen and nutrients and picks up CO2 and waste products. As long as there is a partial pressure differential, the current of gases readily moves between the atmosphere, blood, and cells. To recap, increasing partial pressure generally increases the flow of gas from one medium to another, while increasing resistance, such as in the choking example, or asthma, or, in the blood, polycythemia, look it up, would decrease the efficacy of gas transfer between the substances.